Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope on this 12th day of March. Good to be back live on the program. Good to see everybody again. Going to talk about this quarterback carousel, Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, Geno Smith, and, of course, NFL free agency. Still kind of trying to keep an eye on Aaron Rodgers, although I just read today, just a few minutes ago, that Minnesota is actually interested potentially in Aaron Rodgers. So get to that. What teams I think made the biggest progress? I'll go over that, of course, and more. Stand by. We'll take our first and only break. I'll be back here momentarily, and we will hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
All righty, then I'm back here live, folks. I'm having a little problem here on Roku TV. I've got them both going. We'll see what happens here. My take on this is NFL free agencies like trying to drink water through a fire hydrant. There's so much information. I just can't get it all. You see the dog when you take the hose pipe there and and you tried to sorry, folks, I'm having some technical issues. Looks like we're back live here on Roku TV. Awesome. Great. All right. And you know, the dog's just trying to get as much of it as he can. He can't get it all in. That's me right now. That's just taking in all this information. Stores are coming in as we speak. So just bear with me, folks. I wish I didn't have to miss these days, but it's all part of the process here. I had to make some more money to get money from my car repairs and whatnot. So for those of you watching the program, you already know what the situation is. So we'll just have to deal with it as we go. Thanks for bearing with me. Of course, I'm showing replays. You may have missed something or another from a previous show. So, okay. Where to start now? Dun, 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 dun. I want to start with this Sam Darnold going over to the I could have swore I had it. Okay. Basically, I'll loop these two stories in together. That's what I did. Geno Smith, since the last time I talked to you all, has been traded, obviously, to the Raiders. And, of course, the Seahawks over the weekend, and of course on Monday, and today it went official, have signed Sam Darnold. The late fourth quarter drive, in my opinion, and I'll bring this up tomorrow with the Mad New Yorker, but the late fourth quarter drive there last year against Seattle, at Seattle, if you recall, Minnesota there, by Sam Darnold, I want to say inside 5 minutes to go. They were down by 4, needed a touchdown to take the lead there. Darnold, nice drive there, goes all the way down the field, takes the lead. Seattle gets the ball back, missed field goal, and then, of course, got it back again towards the end of the game. Geno Smith throws an interception. I think that right there, if you look at it, I think that particular game, that sequence of plays made the John Snyder, the general manager there, Mike Macdonald, the head coach there in Seattle, think, okay, we want this guy. We want this guy. 34 touchdowns last year for Sam Darnold to 21 for Geno Smith there, and a much younger 28-year-old. Other than that, they're pretty similar. Smith's got a higher completion percentage, actually. But you're looking at 34-year-old versus 28-year-old, more athletic. Sam Darnold got the 10 wins with him. Do you think you can get that next win, get another win? You should have had 11 there last year if Sam Darnold would have been on your team. So that's what I think that they're thinking. And, of course, that was you got here's the actual numbers here. 21 and 15 interceptions for Geno Smith, 35 and 12 for Darnold here. Now, of course, we know they lost both DK Metcalf, who went over to the Steelers for a second-round pick, and they had to cut Tyler Lockett for salary cap issues with him. But you see how much Darnold's success of having with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, plus Kevin O'Connell Magic. What do you think about a defensive-minded head coach, Mike Macdonald, and one true number one receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba, led by a good running back room with Kenneth Walker? So that's the question of everybody. Is it going to work out this way, or is it more of Kevin O'Connell magic for Sam Darnold, or is it Sam Darnold just kind of the light went off? Remember last year, I thought maybe it was the offensive coordinator for Baker Mayfield for his magic in Tampa. Remember, that coach ended up going over to Carolina, taking that head coaching job. And then, of course, Mayfield's numbers got better last year. And, of course, he lost his coordinator again, who's now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Seattle fans have to be pretty excited about this. That's a young, hungry defense, up-and-coming team. Remember all those draft picks they got out of Denver in the Russell Wilson trade? They're still milking that, Seattle, a lot of close games that simply Geno Smith could not close out. Watch and I saw this 2 years in a row, the gradual decline of Smith late into season. So I like the move here for Seattle. I think they're going to press for a playoff push. Contreras, some may say, well, they're rebuilding on offense. I think they'll probably pick up another receiver through free agency or in the draft here. They've got Mike Bobo. They've got Noah Fant, and, of course, Jackson Smith-Njigba, the three names there. We saw the breakout season he had last year, plus you add that running element to it. And I think it's addition by subtraction with DK. I think he was getting a little wore out there with Seattle. Personally, if you get a deranged is probably not the right word, an irritated wide receiver, things can go south quick in the NFL. Don't want to call him a diva, but he has diva-like tendencies, if you know what I mean. He's not Stephon Diggs and Antonio Brown, DK, but he can complain some. most big-time receivers usually do. So, again, I think Seattle's going to press for the playoffs. As far as the Raiders are concerned, it stabilizes the Raiders. They've got one good weapon there. I'm sure they're going to add some more insurance there offensively there in Brock Bowers. They'll probably add another running back. Maybe they trade down at that 6th pick. Maybe Schroeder Sanders falls to them. Now, we know that there's a connection with Tom Brady's got a big hand in this, a lot bigger hand than I originally thought, per se. A lot bigger hand than I originally thought. I don't know what's up with this NESSP thing. I'm going to try to save that one more time and see if it helps. But there were rumors that he was not in love with this free agency market. He thought Geno Smith would be stable as a stopgap type of quarterback there. But there is a connection with Schroeder Sanders and Tom Brady. He worked with Brady in the offseason the last few seasons that I'm aware of. Personally, if he's there at 6, I do think that he would work. That would be a really good fit. He can back up Geno Smith. He would not be forced to go out there in year 1. That could happen if he's not on the board, if somebody else takes him ahead of time. If the Giants take him, they need him, or somebody else trades up, per se. That could work out as well, But they're stable. I think they'll probably be, I don't know, a game or two better. I'm just not a big Geno Smith guy. I know the coaching's going to be there with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, but I do like the Seattle side of it. I know a lot of people think that that may be a little rich on the Darnold contract. I don't think so. I think it's pretty close to the Baker Mayfield contract personally. And at some point, Mike Macdonald's like, "Hey, listen, man, I gotta get over the hump here. I gotta win games, or I'm going to be on the hot seat, and I'm going to be back being a coordinator somewhere." So, and of course, again, I said this at the end of last season. That's as far before last season. So for those of you who watched the program, I said this is as far as Geno Smith's going to take this team, folks. He's an overachiever as it is, but it is what it is. In other news, let me say this. I honestly think the Jets have come to the place where they don't think that they can get adequate quarterback play here. I think they're punting on the season with this signing of Justin Fields. Put down in my notes here, signs a 2-year deal. If you look at his stats here, 65% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception here. You think, wow, okay, man, he got a raw deal in Pittsburgh. And, of course, Fields, terrible on 3rd down, looks confused out there, saw it with the Steelers there. Listen, 2-year, was it? Yeah, 2-year, $40 million. I want to say $8 million is guaranteed. And you got guys like Mike Greenberg saying, well, it's, hey, what can happen here? He gives him an opportunity. You listen to guys that get up, they say stuff like, well, it gives him an opportunity. He can run more in this offense. He's not got anybody watching over his shoulder. And I thought to myself, what are you guys, the public relations for the New York Jets here? This is his 3rd team in 3 years. Again, the Jets faithful, and I know some of the people that are optimistic. Yeah, he's going to be playing with a former Ohio State player that he played with in college. I think Andrew Luck had a tight end he played with in college, and it made never mind. Things still didn't work out for that guy. It was another tight end that actually had better chemistry with Luck in Indianapolis, going back to that. But like I said, you look at these numbers, man, 65%, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. You got to watch the games with Fields and how he converts on 3rd downs. Those are also, like I said, 5 touchdowns and one. I mean, it's just not a lot there from a passing perspective here. And I heard one analyst say, well, he gets to run more. Well, he ran at the end there with the Chicago Bears and got a shoulder injury, okay? He looked really good with the Bears for like one primetime game. That was against the New England Patriots where he looked great. A lot of those were gimmicky plays. Defense is caught up on there. He gets the shoulder injury. He's in and out. He's often injured. You really grasping at straws. You're hoping for something big. But then again, if you're, again, not to sound like a broken record, I said the same thing about Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles being a defensive-minded head coach, and they am going to the playoffs year before last, and then messed around and went to the playoffs this past year. So I could be wrong. I doubt it. They lost, Carter there, the cornerback there, lost him in free agency. I want to say he signed with the Detroit Lions here. But Terry Glenn, this offense, I think maybe general manager maybe thinking, okay, we've already did the Aaron Rodgers thing. Probably don't want to bring back Darnold. Although, listen, it's a whole different roster. New coaching staff, new players with Darnold. I might have kicked the rocks on that and made a bid for Darnold. If I'm Terry Glenn, he got the chance to see the guy up close and personal twice there in the regular season, although they did beat him and his defense was all over him. You could have went that route here. You could have upped the ante for Matt Stafford, but of course Matt Stafford would have to pull the trigger on that per se. But they didn't want to do that. I think what they're wanting to do is, personally, there could be a chance next year's draft, Nico from Tennessee, University of Tennessee quarterback, might come out next year. Arch Manning might come out next year. Both could stay next year and not come out until 2027 per se, especially Arch Manning. That would only give him 1 full year of starting. But I do think they're somewhat punting on the season. I think they're probably a 5-win team, 5-12 Jets. That's what I think of that. I don't think it's a good play at all. Could be wrong. Been wrong before. But that is my thoughts on that one, folks. And I'm sure by the text message I got from Carlos, I don't think he's in love with that pick either. Okay. I'll tell you what I do like. I'll tell you something that I do like. I may be wrong. Now, listen, last year, I thought that the Lions were going to go to the Super Bowl. And you consider they had lost their best pass rusher about 5 games in, along with multiple defensive linemen. And they still found a way to get the 1 seed and caught a red-hot Commander team and ended up losing that game. But they still ended up getting a 1 seed. They had a really good shot. I think if they'd have stayed healthy, I still think they would have got to the Super Bowl last year. I was wrong about that, but I was right about them in the regular season. I knew they was going to be that good. I say that because this Bears team, I send this to John Rostano, if you're watching, brother. Of course, I know John may be doing a show on his own. They added 3 new offensive linemen. Joe Thuney got him in a trade there, 32-year-old. He's the oldest, but he's the most consistent. Doesn't miss games. And note, productive Lane Johnson won a Super Bowl there at right tackle there. One of the best right tackles in the game of football. 34 years old, played 15 games. Won the Super Bowl this past year. Andrew Whitworth, left tackle. It's harder playing on the outside than inside. You're dealing with much faster players. You're dealing with the better athlete on the outside. That's why they say, scouts and whatnot, coaches, you want the long arm measurements, folks, to play left tackle. Whitworth played at 40. Andrew Whitworth played at 40 back in 2021. We know what the Rams did. They won the Super Bowl. I say that because Joe Thuney, I thought that was a great trade there by the Bears there to pick up Joe Thuney there at 32 years old. And he shows up, he plays. I always look, when you see a move made like that for a talented player, I always look, and this is what I've been doing the last few days, scanning up the X out, looking up these players' names, then going back to Google, typing in career stats, game started, boom. This guy's showing up, and he's playing. Love that Joe Thuney trade there, okay? And, of course, they got the Rams, Drew Dahlman from Atlanta. Drew Dahlman, they got him from Atlanta. He does have an injury history, but he's still just 26 years old. And they got Jonah Jackson with the Rams. Also has somewhat of an injury history, but a very high rating here. Do I think that they should add some potential? Listen, I didn't think it was that. Everybody else thinks that Bears line was terrible. My opinion of it, kind of like the Tennessee Titans offensive line, although I'll talk the Titans here in a minute. My opinion of the Chicago Bears was that too much freelancing out there right off the snap of the football by Caleb Williams. A lot of that was bad coaching. A lot of that was rookie quarterback trying to play hero ball. Excuse me. Sorry. Trying to play hero ball like he did back in USC as a college player. You can't get away with that in the NFL. You're going to look like a total bust who's confused out there. I do think that Ben Johnson coming over there from the Lions per se, doing those short passes, quick screen games. They've got the personnel with was it DJ Moore there at receiver. I do expect another big step for wide receiver Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet. They've got the skill players to get this sort of thing done. But I do think that for sure, picking up Thuney there will pay dividends. But just to be on the safe side, I would go ahead and try to draft some other players in backup roles there, potentially starter roles with the Chicago Bears. Now, this center was supposedly the best center on the market per se. This center from Atlanta, so I like what they've done overall. I've got faith in what they're doing with this coaching staff. I'll say it right now. Here's the write-up of their offensive line last year. This is from Pro Football Focus per se. If I can find it here, I've got so many notes, folks. You just got to bear with me here. With Chicago's offensive line failed to reach potential many saw in the preseason, unit was better than many people gave it credit for. For the Bears, 5 projected starters earned PFL overall grades of 70. All 5 top 65. However, injuries, keyword, and Caleb Williams' pocket movement awareness, just like I said, playing hero ball, did the group no favors, resulting in allowing the most sacks in the NFL at 37. The Bears have surrendered the most sacks in the league, but they were only the 12th worst offensive line PFF pass blocking efficiency rating, 84.8. The unit allowed 180 pressures on 682 plays. Again, a lot of that was coaching there. That was that defensive-minded head coach. Now you've got some upgrades. These are upgrades, and you still have these other players here. So I do think that things are going to turn around for the Bears. And as you look at that, you look at the defense that they had already, front, middle, and back. Got pass rusher there, linebacker in play, and of course you got Jalen Johnson back there at the cornerback position there. You're looking at a team that I do think even in this division, tough division. I think they're going to make a push there for the playoffs here. I really do think that they're going to be a serious playoff, a team that really can contend for the playoffs. I'm not going to say they're going to be a air quote Super Bowl contender. Probably got the usual suspects as last year in the NFC, but I do think that they're got a really good shot to get a playoff spot this year. I think that, matter of fact, I'll go ahead and say I do think they're minus a bunch of injuries. I think they will go to the playoffs next year. I think they'll go to that's like Jim Fossil. Jim Fossil said about the Giants in 2000 in the preseason or start of training camp. He says, let me tell you this, we'll go ahead and raise the bar. This team will go to the playoffs. That's what John Fossil said. And, of course, they got all the way to the Super Bowl. Now, they got destroyed by the Ravens in the Super Bowl, but the Giants actually made it to the Super Bowl that year. So, again, so here it is, the DJ Moore. I don't know who I said about the wide receiver. But now this is the Braxton Jones at left tackle. Not too bad. Joe Tooney, left guard. Drew Coleman, center. Jonah Jackson, right guard, got from Rams. And, of course, Darrell Wright, not holding it down. Not too bad there from Tennessee, playing right tackle, per se. Okay? All righty then. And other notes, news and notes here. Daniel Jones again, like I said, with Justin Fields. Now, Jones, a little bit better resume than Justin Fields. He actually did get to the playoffs. Remember, he did beat Minnesota up in Minnesota a few years ago. Got the contract. Things went south. We know what happened. He got cut and everything. But he is now signed with the Indianapolis Colts to go there compete. And this is what I read or heard today. Might have been yesterday when this happened. He is there to compete with Anthony Richardson. So it's looking already. Richardson still very green, very raw there up in Indianapolis. This is a crucial year for the quarterback of Indianapolis. He's got to make that next step. That's 2 years there. I know he got hurt that first year. Last year, taking a tremendous step backwards with that Colts offensive line, with Shane Steichen there doing the scheme there. They were thinking, that's what they get for thinking, but that just what I said, they were thinking Jalen Hurts. That's what they were thinking when they thought Anthony Richardson. Not sure if he's putting the kind of work in behind the scenes that a Hurts is, but he will compete with Richardson. I was surprised that was being said, and it was not just a backup role. Now, very good athlete. Guys are very, very similar skill set from Richardson. So that's going to be an interesting training camp story to follow up in Indianapolis. And, of course, if it don't happen, maybe Steichen becomes the fall guy, although I don't think he should. I think Richardson, as raw as he was a very risky draft pick at number 4 overall. But I do think they should be pretty patient with him. Now, that being said, this year he's got to make that big step. Richardson does. We're going to see how that plays out. Very, very cheap. I mean, it's just a 1-year deal for the Colts. It's a make or break, prove it year for Daniel Jones. By the way, I do think Jones is a pretty good backup. Good athlete, can make a few throws. What else do you want out of a backup? Good for 3 or 4 games. That's about what a good backup you want out of a backup. You know, they're usually good for a few games. And then after 3 or 4 games, then you realize, okay, that's why they're the backup. So not a bad signing there for the Indianapolis Colts here. Okay. DK Metcalf, listen, I don't know why the Steelers, I guess the Steelers let their left tackle Dan Moore go to Tennessee, because they like, was it Broderick Jones? I guess they like to move him over from right to left. They felt like he's probably ready to make that transition. That's what it says on their depth chart per se. They have made the trade, gave the second round pick and a big contract extension to DK Metcalf, put him opposite of George Pickens there. Going to see how that plays out there. All right. But they don't have a quarterback right now. I mean, Russell Wilson's a free agent. Everything leads to Aaron Rodgers. Nothing has came into play there. And matter of fact, as far as Rodgers is concerned, I'm looking at my X account here just as we speak, and just in case I'm not missing anything per se. This stuff is so fast here that it's hard to. By the way, C.J. Mosley just got released, Carlos, from the Jets. C.J. Mosley has been released from the Jets, and Cooper Kupp remains unsigned. Yeah, Kupp seems to be now it's official. What Adam Schefter says, Aaron Rodgers has been released. The Jets will take $49 million in dead cap. He's being designated as a post-1 cut, meaning they can carry the hit until June 1st, when that drops to $14 million. All that being said, he can still sign elsewhere. The Steelers need to make that move. A lot of people don't like that move. I think that offense that is being ran up there by with the Steelers there. I just forgot that Steelers offensive coordinator's name. Arthur Smith, of course, is still up there. I think that's a very simple offense for Aaron Rodgers. I think he can learn that offense. I think it's okay for them to let Najee Harris go. He didn't have the explosion of a Jaylen Warren. I think they should still possibly use that first-round pick of one of these really good running backs, maybe Henderson or somebody, the guy from Ohio State. Maybe this Yancey guy drops down to Pittsburgh. I don't know if he will. He probably go about 12 to 15 in my guess, the running back everybody's talking about out of Boise State. Now, but again, Arthur Smith, simple offense. You got Freiermuth. You've got George Pickens there. You've got, obviously, DK Metcalf, Megatron 2.0, TO 3.0 up there, jump balls. I think that would be a really good fit there with Rodgers, personally. I know contrary, others think, guys like Colin Cowherd doesn't think that would be a good pickup. I disagree. I think that would be a really good pickup. I don't know if that'll get them to the air quote Super Bowl or anything like that, but I think that'll keep them competitive this year. And I think that very well may be, although Diana Rossini says Minnesota is possibly kicking the cans on. This is Diana Rossini from The Athletic, very trusted NFL reporter. Vikings decision makers are still evaluating their options at quarterback, include the possibility of signing Aaron Rodgers, the four-time MVP is intrigued by the idea of playing in Minnesota. For now, it's a waiting game. So Rodgers has got to go to some kind of, meditation, I guess, Carlos, and find out if he wants to go. Now, I understand Kevin O'Connell, that offense. It would be funny if Rodgers actually made his way. How ironic would that be, Carlos? If Aaron Rodgers goes from how ironic does this sound? From the Packers, traded to the Jets, then back to Minnesota. Isn't that very Brett Favre-like? Traded to the Jets, then back to Minnesota, and then he ends his career against the Packers. That would be really interesting there. I don't know. I personally like the fact that if he went to Pittsburgh, he really wouldn't be looking over his shoulder there at Pittsburgh, who just signed Darius Slay, by the way, from Philadelphia. I think it would be more interesting for him to go to Pittsburgh. If he goes to Minnesota, You still got to watch the development of the young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy with that meniscus tear there. It's very – Packers, Jets didn't work out, and then to Minnesota. That was really good. I felt like maybe that Favre had more left in the tank, but Rodgers looked pretty good down the stretch there, and I don't know. I think it'd be pretty good pickup for him to go to the Steelers, but obviously with Kevin O'Connell and his magic, I kind of like to see what McCarthy would look like personally. They just didn't want to give that extra year in Minnesota. That's my thought. And other thoughts simply maybe they might just been doing a guy a solid, because I told you all, I'd read reports and heard from other players say the meniscus for a young player like J.J. McCarthy is not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. He should be ready for training camp. He should be ready to go. They don't want to pay a big chunk of money, and they've made some moves here. They picked up Jonathan Allen there, Minnesota. They've made some moves there on the defensive side, paid some money there that they could not have paid there for Darnold, and it's closer to $40 million for Darnold. Carlos has said $20 million is even too high. So I read it was more than that. I like what Seattle did. I think it's a better fit than it's better for Seattle to get him than Geno Smith. But if you got a guy if you really like McCarthy as much as they do, rookie contract, first round guy, you've got a really good defensive coordinator. You've got Brian Flores for one more year. You've got the great Justin Jefferson, and of course the opposite at receiver. Let's see what happens. Let's see how this thing plays out. Although I do think the Bears have gotten a lot better. That's what I said earlier in the segment. I still stand by that with those three new offensive linemen that they have picked up. So we will be monitoring that, and that's maybe a topic for myself and, of course, the Mad New Yorker to discuss tomorrow personally. Okay. Laremy Tunsil. I'm a little concerned about what the Texans are going to do. I have not read what they have planned to do at left tackle. They traded their left tackle to Washington to help solidify he's 30 years old, and 17, 14, 17, again, with the games played, folks, for Houston. I wouldn't play around. You've got a defensive-minded head coach. Keep that in mind. They got a defensive-minded head coach down there in Houston. I love DeMeco Ryans. Not sure what I would have done there. I'm not sure I would have done that with Tunsil. Remember, I warned you all. I thought it was going to catch up eventually. It took all the way to the Super Bowl with Kansas City, but I thought it was going to catch up eventually. And it may catch up again with them this year, letting Tooney go, although they did franchise tag Trey Smith there. He's a rock star at the other guard spot. But anyways, 30-year-old left tackle there traded for a big chunk of picks. I want to say 5 picks here for Laremy Tunsil. By the way, Pro Football Focus, 4th highest rated pass blocking grade, 88.6. That's really good. They gave up a 3rd-round pick and a 7th-round pick in 25. The Commanders did, but they gave a 2nd-round pick in 26 and a 4th-round pick in 26. So that's the kind of picks that you want to get out of a guy. I know that Myles Garrett decided to sign a bunch of money, by the way, and stay up there in Cleveland. But that would have been the kind of package. More than that, actually, but something similar to that where you got like 5 draft picks and 3 of them in the top 75, 2 first rounds, 2 3s, and maybe a 5 or something like 2 first rounds, a 2nd, a 3rd, a 5th, and a 4th maybe for Myles Garrett. For example, because he's a younger player, about a year or two younger. But this is for that left tackle there. Gave up a bunch. Now, I hope Houston's got a good backup plan for C.J. Stroud there. You got to protect your quarterback. Got to protect your quarterback. We saw that in the Super Bowl, folks. So anyways, I like what they did. I like what Washington. They've also I've talked about it last week with the Mad New Yorker. They signed. They made a trade for nothing. Got Deebo Samuel. They brought back Zach Ertz. Re-signed Bobby Wagner, and I know he's a little long in the tooth. And they got Javon Kinlaw from San Francisco. Now, defensively, I do not think that's enough. They were, 30th against the run last year? So with what they have left, not to sound like a broken record, but I'm looking at that Rams model, just go all defense. Same thing with the Bills in the draft. Go all defense. All defense. Carlos says, rookie contract that hasn't played any NFL games. I guess he's talking about McCarthy. So he's going to argue with me on J.J. McCarthy. Carlos must be Sam Darnold's agent, but he says trust Trubisky more. I don't know what that meant, Carlos, but sorry, brother. I'm going 90 miles an hour. This is a whole lot of stuff here. It's a lot of stuff here. A whole lot of shaking going on. So, listen, I think Washington's going to be competitive again. I think they're going to be back in the playoffs. I think that Jaden Daniels, he might take a slight step back early. He might, because there's going to be, over the summer, there's going to be more film on him. They're not going to be able to just punch the league in the mouth like that. This happens every year. The league's going to have a little bit more on him. He might take a slight, like C.J. Stroud did. But what did Stroud do? Stroud rebounded, and they made a run towards the end, got a playoff win, finished pretty strong in the season, still won the AFC South. I think the same thing for the Commanders. Now, of course, the Eagles are just this big, loaded football team. I don't know if they'll get past the Eagles team minus a bunch of injuries. You never know. It's the NFL. We don't know how this thing's going to play out. But I do think that they're not going to be a one-hit wonder. They kept Cliff Kingsbury. They made some adjustments there. They still need to pump up that defense and use that in the draft. But so far, really like what they have done in the offseason, solidifying that offensive line. Didn't even think they had that issue at left tackle, because as quick as and the way the setup was with Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury offense, I was really impressed. But I'm not looking at the film every single play, every single snap. It's always good. You always want to have more than enough when it comes to that offensive line, not to sound like a broken record. These games are won in the trenches. We've watched it in the Super Bowl. We've watched Mahomes get smoked, not once but twice when he's had decimated offensive lines. And he's one of the best ever, definitely the best of this era. Okay? You can't protect, you don't care who you got out there, Ask Tom Brady. He's had some bad times there where he couldn't get any, where he's been blasted. I remember the year the Broncos got to the Super Bowl, Von Miller was in the backfield constantly in that AFC Championship game against Tom Brady back in 2015, 2016. Okay. Okay, I'm out of Nashville. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this there, Carlos. The Titans. Listen, said this early in the program. Yes, you're probably going to have to pay more in free agency, But I said it last year. I thought the Eagles may have overpaid Saquon Barkley. I thought they overpaid Saquon Barkley last year. That guy gets 2,000 something. He gets the all-time rushing leader for regular season and postseason combined. He beat Terrell Davis's record there. Okay. But Tennessee signing Dan Moore, 4-year, $82 million, $50 million guaranteed, left tackle out of Pittsburgh. This guy's missed 2 games in his 4-year career. Very impressive. Well above average left tackle. He's going to play left tackle. J.C. Latham, who was played right tackle, wasn't bad at left tackle. Maybe they move Dan Moore to right tackle. We'll have to see. We'll have to get him in there with Bill Callahan's offensive line coach and make sure that you're going to have a lot of competition. We're going to find out in training camp. But as of right now, the Titans, according to the Titans depth chart, they're going to move 26-year-old Dan Moore over to the left tackle position. By the way, Pro Football Focus, above average player there, 68% completion percentage, about the middle of the field there. But there was one site there that Torrin Davenport says at times he's had a 95 pass blocking rating, so it's much better pass blocker there. Dan Moore is. You got him beside Peter Skonorski there at guard there, and I hope Lloyd Cushenberry's back there at center. I know he got injured last year, but we'll have to see how the Titans act. Right now, I think they're pretty confident he's going to be back in time to play the regular season. That's the center they signed from Denver last year in free agency, Cushenberry and whatnot. But they're going to move Latham back to J.C. Latham back to his natural right tackle position. And today, that the Titans doing the right thing. They're watching SportsScope. They signed Kevin Zeiter. Now, this is a guard out of Detroit. Making sure I said that right. Hold on for a second, folks. They signed Kevin Zeiter, 1 year, $9 million, former Detroit line. Now he's 34. But again, this guy's playing, man. He's playing games. He's playing 16 games last year, 16 the year before that, and 15 the year before that. That's a good depth guy to put on your team. Very proud of Tennessee for making that signing there. So you got help at guard. He'll probably end up beating out the other guard, which I think would be Bradis, I guess. I guess I could go here and look on I screenshotted their new depth chart here. And we can give you a depth chart here in real time. If I can get it through all these. Yeah, Dan Moore, Sonorski, Zeiter's listed ahead of, I think they let that Ruiz walk or something. He must have walked in free agency and whatnot. I don't even see him on here. So right now they got Dan Moore left tackle, Peter Sonorski left guard. They've got Cushenberry at center, Kevin Zeiter at the right guard, and of course J.C. Latham there at right tackle. That's a pretty good offensive line. And I will say this, the way this is looking, from everything I read, being at the first pick overall, I understand about getting the best athlete and all that stuff, the air quote, best prospect. But, Cam Ward is overwhelmingly listed as a favorite on FanDuel. You look at Ward's experience here. If he passes the eye test as far as interviews with the Titans, and I haven't heard or read anything negative about Cam Ward, a 4-year player, could the Titans get Jaden Daniels light? Jaden Daniels light could be wild card. Jaden Daniels is NFC Championship. That was crazy. I still just at all that the fact that he got that Commander team to the NFC Championship game last year. So I'm all on board for go ahead, just roll the dice, take Cam Ward. you're going to have a much, much better offensive line. Mind you, Tennessee was second in total defensive yards allowed last year, although they had the worst record in the NFL. A lot of those games were lost because of Will Levis turning the ball over and giving and bad special teams play. They packed up a new punter here. Also, they picked up Carlos. They picked up a punter here out of Johnny Heckler. That's not made up. They've got this punter. I'm going to say he was with Carolina, but I may be mistaken. But he's going to come back and play with John Fossil, the son of Jim Fossil, who used to coach your Giants there up in New York. So they're going to be better. They got a new special teams coordinator. They got to have another punter here. The defense, by the way, they signed what's this guy's name? Carlos. I didn't like the fact that they let Harold Landry go for nothing. Don't let me leave that out here. But they've got this guy, this linebacker here, Cody Barton, second leading tackler on the Denver Broncos, and they've traded Kenneth Murray, who couldn't tackle me in the open field. That guy missed tackles than anybody. He could run like the wind blows, but he ain't catch nothing. You know what I'm saying? They traded him to Dallas somewhere. You know, they traded him to Dallas. Carlos says they could pull off an Eagles-like draft. He says flip picks and get depth. Tennessee is a toss-up division. Yeah, and I'm starting to hear guys like Jason McIntyre and Colin Cowherd talk up the Titans. McIntyre from Fox Sports said he thinks the Titans could be another team to squeak into playoffs as a wild card in the AFC. Potentially could win that division, especially with now Titans going to mean another pass rusher. I didn't like that at all. I think they should have kept Harold Landry. They should have adjusted his salary. I guess they had to get Dan Moore. That ticked me off right there. Now, the fact that they let Harold Landry go, they could be punting on the season and take Abdul Carter from Penn State. I just try to take a chance with Cam Ward. I know they've got Arden Key there. I know they've got a pretty good cornerback there. I know they're good at defensive tackle. They've got Sweat and they've got Simmons there. So you're going to get more push up the middle. They've got help. They've brought in another assistant to help out with the defensive line, which I said they should do. I thought they should fire their linebacker coach because Murray was so bad last year. That's why the Chargers got rid of him, you know. So I like what they did, contrary of what others said. Listen, I'm not a fanboy. I was high on them last year. I was right about a lot of things and wrong about a lot of things. Mainly was Will Levis. He was so bad last year. I still thought they had one of the best receiving corps ever. I still thought they had the best secondary ever. But when you got a quarterback and special teams that bad, things happen, you know, things happen. So I admit all that stuff. So other news here, Pats went on a spending spree as well. I do like the fact that the Pats did pick up Harold Landry there. Of course, Mike Vrabel brings in his old nine sacks last year for Tennessee, the sack leader for Tennessee, 28 years old. Again, I hated that Tennessee did that. They also picked up Carlton Davis, cornerback there from Detroit. Very, very good pickup there. Mac Hollins. Milton Williams was a big one. Got a lot of criticism for that. He's a defensive tackle out of Philadelphia. They still got the 4th pick there. They need a good receiver. Mac Hollins, not quite enough there. Morgan Moses, they also picked him up. I'm surprised the Jets didn't keep Moses, but they didn't. So, and they got Josh Dobbs as a backup quarterback there. Pretty good for New England. Of course, they got the 4th pick. They could get Grayson Graham. They could pick this T-Mac guy out of Arizona with that pick if they don't make a trade, and they could make a trade for a player. Maybe it doesn't get done with T. Higgins. I think that they're going to sign T. Higgins to an extension with Cincinnati, but maybe they go after T. Higgins. T. Higgins is currently under a franchise tag with the Cincinnati Bengals. Woo! Golly, folks. I know that's a lot of notes, and I'm sure I didn't get to everything. I know I didn't get to everything. Didn't get to the 49ers, really didn't get to Minnesota. But either way, folks, I'll have the Mad New Yorker here on tomorrow. Mad New Yorker, you got a good idea what we're going to talk about here. I'll send you the questions here. Maybe get a Nick's question in there as well. But we'll see what he thinks about all these quarterback carousel. Again, I think the Bears are in really good chance here to get into the playoffs. And right now, New England's got that shot, or possibly Tennessee. I have to really think about this because I got to let the draft play out before I start making those type of predictions. Of course, this will be alternated and whatnot as the information comes in. I'll have to, add here, subtract here, adjust there, and whatnot. So I appreciate you folks. If you like the show, share the show. I'll be back tomorrow. Otherwise, same place, same time with the Mad New Yorker here on The Real Sports Scope.